Alright, what's up, everyone? So AEW just revealed their new game. Well, they revealed three games. You got the console game, which I guess is coming to the new consoles. I don't know if it's coming to the current gen stuff, or like what gen are we in? Or is the next gen now the current gen? Because I don't even know what's going on with that. I don't even know what's out yet. But anyway, so there's the console game, and then there's like a mobile like booking game, which I don't know what platforms that's going to be on because I didn't really pay attention. But I think that's going to be mobile, and it might come to consoles and PC at some point. Who knows? But obviously they have to know that there's a demand for that. I've never really been into it myself, but people really enjoy booking, and so that's a thing. That's one of the three games, and then they've got like this kind of mobile. Um, like casino game, which I don't know what form it's going to take. It looks like a type of card game, but I don't know if it's going to be like gotcha style or what they're going to really do with it. But those are the three games. So, but anyway, I'm mostly going to be talking about the console game here because there's just so much to kind of unpack with it. So obviously, when it comes to wrestling video games, it's been the industry hasn't been great for a long time. There's only really been one player in town for the most part, and that's been the WWE games being developed by Ukes for the longest, up until recently where they kind of left. And I don't even know what the politics was about that. Like, some sources kind of word it like Ukes voluntarily left, and others say that they kind of got ejected. But either way, Ukes was developing. They developed all of the WWF/WWE games ever since the first SmackDown on the PS1 up until WWE 2K20, was it? Or was it? No. I think they did 2K. They did it all the way up to 2K19, and then that was the last one they made, I think. And then 2K20 was a disaster, which came out last year, and that was made by Visual Concepts, who were originally like in a kind of an assist role, and then they became the primary and only sole developers now. So that game was a disaster because they were transitioning, and I don't think they had like access to all of the tech and everything. But anyway, for a long time, a lot of gamers, like wrestling fan gamers, were kind of like not happy with the direction that the WWE games took. I guess you can say after. It depends on who you ask. Some people say that it went downhill after Here Comes the Pain. Some people say it went downhill after one of the SmackDown versus Raw games. Some people say it was when it changed to 2K insert number here. It's different depending on who you ask, but either way it goes, mostly people have been worshipping and jacking off to the so-called Aki games, which was a series of wrestling games that primarily came out on the N64, developed by Aki, who ceased being at some point, I think in the early 2000s, and then they went defunct and came kind of resurrected as Sin Sophia or something like that. I don't know, but so those games were known for having a certain type of gameplay style, where you had weak strikes, strong strikes, weak grapple, strong grapple. You have the button, the timed reversals with dedicated buttons for different moves and things like that. And it was a very specific control style and very specific gameplay loop and style. But that kind of after No Mercy, I think it was either No Mercy or WWF WrestleMania 2000 or something like that. One of those two was the final one that came out on the N64. And then after that, there wasn't any more WWE games with that type of gameplay, or at least some people would have you believe that. But Aki did go on to make Def Jam, Vendetta, and Fight for New York, which both had the Aki style gameplay because they were developed by Aki. And there were a couple non-WWE, non-Def Jam games that they made in Japan with that type of style, but they were these really weird kind of like anime, like lucha, like I don't even know how to describe it, but they were these weird games. But actually, Ukes, a lot of people don't know about this because the GameCube wrestling games just always went underneath the radar. They were never as popular as the PS2 games were. But Ukes actually made 4 games on the GameCube that were WWE games. They were WrestleMania X8, which came out in 2001, I believe, or 2002. WrestleMania 19, which came out in 2003, I believe. And then you had Day of Reckoning 1 and 2, which came out in 2004 and 2005, respectively. Those games all had the same Aki-style control scheme, the gameplay, except, in my opinion, in the opinion of a bunch of other people, the gameplay was actually better. I don't care, I'm going to die on this hill. The gameplay was better than any of the N64 games because it wasn't as slow and it wasn't as clunky as the N64 games were. It was evolved. All of them had the kind of like universal collision system where any move could be broken up at any point by any individual wrestler from any move. So you weren't just like locked into an animation whenever a move began, and you weren't just giving like all these invincibility frames. And it made the fights a lot more realistic and dynamic and action centric. It was just a great gameplay style. And those, unfortunately, after that, Ukes never did that style again because they got locked into doing the WWE games in a certain style, and it stayed that way up until recently. Now AEW just revealed that console game, and Kenny Omega actually went up and revealed that they got the director who directed some of the N64 games as well as the 2 Def Jam games. He had a significant role in those games too. So that's obviously gotten a lot of people hyped more. To me, I'm not really like, I was never really like a fanboy of those games. I think it's a good sign, but, there have been some people saying, oh, well, just because he was good at that stuff back then doesn't mean he's going to be good now. I don't really buy that, because obviously there have been cases where people were like, holding a certain game developer or a certain musician or a certain movie director in really high regard because of something that they made, like a decade or 2 ago, and then they bring them back and they make something new, and it doesn't reach the expectations that people had. I don't really think it's going to go either way definitively. I think first of all, the thing is, it goes after, like, I went on that tangent about going down the history of those games and the way that they played and everything, and I did that for a reason, and it's specifically to address this point where people say, well, just because he made that game or those games and directed them doesn't mean that it's going to be good. Well, I say, just because that guy is directing this new game, it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. It doesn't mean that he's going to be out of touch, because it's being primarily developed by Ukes, who did 3 or 4 games of that style that people keep, worshipping and salivating over, except they did it better. And, I think that's, I think that spells more, I think it errs more on the side of, there's not much to really worry about. But on the same token, Ukes is just a developer name. We don't really know for a fact, like, who from Ukes is still there that worked on those games, because the rotations and the developers change all the time in the industry. The people that may have been there when those 4 GameCube games got developed may not be there anymore. Some people might still be. I don't know. I don't know the credits. I didn't look at the credits, and I don't have any way to like verify. So that being said, I think it's really good that there's more of an alternative right now for different wrestling games, because honestly, the WWE games for like the longest have just been so fucking terrible to me. The last one that I played that was like remotely enjoyable to me was WWE 2K14, and even that one didn't really hold up to some of the older ones that I had played. Meanwhile, I can go back, even with an awareness of the nostalgia goggles, I can play the GameCube games, I can play SmackDown vs. Raw 06, and those games all still play really well to me, just because the controls and the gameplay are just so fucking good that it makes the gameplay good. It's not like, oh, well, I played this when I was a kid and that's why I like it now. Like, no, I have personally gone back and played a ton of old games, Some people on my channel have seen that with my streams and Let's Plays, where you revisit some old ass game and it turns out that game just sucks complete fucking dick because it just didn't age well at all. Anyway, I think I think the gameplay, like, we haven't seen the raw gameplay. We've seen some footage of what was obviously in engine, but we haven't. It was all cinematic, so we didn't really get to see like the gameplay system in action. So it was just a really brief 1 minute trailer. And there have been people complaining already because that's what fucking gamers do. They just make these really knee-jerk reaction, and they don't know anything about how game development actually works. Obviously, and I'm pretty sure someone on the media scrum kind of stressed this, but this is like super early footage. It was just meant to show people like the current vision for the game. And I can understand people not being happy with the way that the visual styling looks, like the actual art style. I can understand that because even myself, I'm not like really high on it. Some people have been drawing comparisons to like WWE Battlegrounds and WWE All Stars, and I didn't dislike those art styles. I think Battlegrounds looks kind of shitty, and they play shitty, because the proportions are just so fucking bizarre in that game. All Stars, on the other hand, I did enjoy the art style. It was like deliberately cartoonish and over exaggerated, and it worked for the type of gameplay that it was. It was like really arcadey and whatnot. With this AEW game, I would prefer it if they actually toned down the cartoonishness of it and went for a more realistic style. It doesn't need to be like hyper realistic simulation style, but the cartoonishness is just really, it's on a level where I would prefer that they revise it. So I think it's very likely, and some people have been saying that it looks like a fucking like early PS3 game, or early PS3 era game, and like I said, it's super early footage. It's not really just gonna remain static. We don't know when it's gonna come out. It could be later this year. It could be some point next year. I don't know. I really don't know, but the game, it's very likely that like the lighting is going to change and the shaders and even the art style might change to some extent. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do know that AEW has been listening to fan input and fan feedback since the get-go, ever since the day one. So with the show, so logic would dictate that they would do the same with the video games. So I don't know. We'll see at some point. But the gameplay, I'm very I'm kind of digging where they're going with it so far. I don't really want it to be a 1-to-1 copy of No Mercy, because I don't really care much for those games. I've played them, and they just feel really clunky and slow to me. A lot of people grew up with those games. That's why they kind of they're like, oh, this is the gold standard and whatnot. But to me, I just don't feel that way at all. I think it's really overrated. But anyway, that's enough with this kind of rambling I've been doing. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that whole thing. So anyway, anyone that's been listening this far, I've actually been I was gonna do like a stream for fucking what is it, EOE, Eve of Extinction, because that's a kind of a funny like low budget game that I played way back when it was brand new. I received it as a gift and wound up actually kind of liking it, but I haven't played it in like 15 years legit. So I was going to stream that, but I'm thinking I might stream Day of Reckoning 1, because I've been wanting to stream Day of Reckoning 1 and 2, like the story mode playthrough and everything, because the story modes are actually pretty decent. So I don't know, I'm probably going to do EOE, but I'm definitely going to do Day of Reckoning 1 and 2 pretty soon, so look out for that, I guess, if anyone cares. Anyway, that's it. 14 minutes. I'm done with this. Take care, everyone. Peace.